What better way to kick off the new year than with a brand new Summonerduels ranked season? Well, for most sane people, this would probably be the worst way to start off the new year. But duty calls, and we have a golden badge that we must earn. So, grab a snack, sit back, and relax as you're about to witness the greatest SDR run of all time. This SDR season, the map is Towering Walls, and the captain skills are Dauntless, Mass Confusion, and Impregnable. First, let's take a look at the map. Both sides start in a traditional zigzag formation, which makes it pretty easy to spread buffs to the entire team. Everyone starts close together, so we won't need to employ any advanced setups to make our opening. Another thing to note is that the map is wide open. There's no trenches, and the force tiles are placed in really inconsequential spots. So the only saving grace we have against cavalry units completely dominating the map are the central blocks, towering walls if you will. The two unbreakable blocks introduce a challenge that most other maps don't have. There is no way to fight through the center. Our only choice is to break the perimeter blocks, go around the central walls, and bring the battle to our foes. Except that's what it seems like on the surface. 2023 introduced a lot, and I mean a lot, of warping mechanics. Like, it should be a crime how much warping got introduced last year. So while you can't literally go through the center of the map, we can certainly have our units break the laws of physics to warp straight to our enemies. Now, I say all this, but in practice, this map plays a lot more passively than you might think. The key here is to use the walls to your advantage. Take control of your corner of the zone, wait for an opportunity to strike, and then overwhelm your opponent. As for the captain skills, they really aren't anything special this time around. Dauntless provides special cooldown charges to your team, which is a pretty good effect. But the only reason why I say that is because the other captain skills are slightly underwhelming. The guard debuff inflicted on foes in cardinal directions to your captain is also something that you're never actually going to play around. Mass Confusion is a very simple captain skill. A flat 5 attack buff to your captain is not bad at all. The secondary effect of Mass Confusion, or arguably the primary effect, is inflicting -7 attack, defense, and resistance on any foes that are adjacent to another foe. If only this also affected speed, would I consider this a very good effect, since speed is the most volatile stat with the strictest benchmarks. The debuffs can be quite potent if you combine them with sabotage or foe penalty doubler effects from your allies. But be warned, the debuffs can work against you if the enemy team has unity effects. Last but not actually least is Impregnable. This captain skill turns your captain into a savior unit starting on turn 2. Now, the problem with this captain skill comes down to how far saviors work in Summonerduels. They are by far the most expendable piece on your team. So the fact that you're making your captain the most valuable unit on your team into a piece that's supposed to soak hits for your allies can be quite detrimental. Reason being, your foe gets an extra point when they kill your captain, so letting them die just to protect your other units doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. There are certainly strong units that make good use of Impregnable, but it's just too gimmicky for me to recommend. Leading up to this SDR season, we received a plethora of strong units to choose from, spanning from the Ninja banner with Duo Seiðr all the way up to the New Year's banner with Duo Seiðr. All the banners released during this time frame had units that pretty much all saw some usage. From that batch, I've brought 2 units in particular. First is Legendary Camilla, our most recent legendary hero to join us. She has incredible firepower, dealing massive chip damage to enemies before anyone even gets to attack. Flared Sparrow also adds to that chip damage. Now, it's important to note that pre-combat chip damage does not actually trigger Vantage or any other skills that activate based on some HP threshold, which may raise the question as to why she's running Hardy Bearing. Well, there are certain units such as Duo Marf that can still trigger Vantage as the condition is not tied to their HP stat, among others. Also, I've deemed Camilla our best candidate for the Hardy Bearing seal, as she doesn't really need any more stats. But of course, we can't forget about what makes Camilla so great. Her personal skill, Spoil Rotten, not only inflicts sabotage globally, but also grants all of her teammates half damage reduction piercing. This is one of the best support effects in the entire game. It helps your units shred through offensive and defensive units that stack loads of damage reduction. 50 to even 90% damage reduction has become commonplace in summonerduels, so cutting that value in half is essential for our units to pick up kills. And if it couldn't get any better, Camilla is also a flying unit, which means we can give her soaring guidance. As for my team's Far Savior, we have Harmonic Tiki. She is doing her best impression of Faye's latest and greatest Far Save, Duo Byleth, whom I do not have. She can get effectively 75 resistance with her kit, and Twin Divine Stone lets her counterattack with Armored Flow triggering. Now, I mentioned she's attempting an impression of Duo Byleth, and while we can't get 100% damage reduction piercing like Byleth Supreme Heaven, we can settle with 50% thanks to Camilla. I've done some testing, and the main culprit whom I want to take down is Winter Yunaka. She gets 90% damage reduction when initiating, so I want Tiki to counterattack and get Yunaka below 25% HP, so that Silent Yule Knife will no longer be active, rendering her completely useless for the most part. Without many good far saves in my barracks, I just kind of have to settle with this build, and live with the fact that none of my armored units are going to survive against anything in this meta. Tiki in particular is great because she can stall actions with her harmonic skill. Helping ferry my units around, Bridal Catria offers the Orders buff and Soaring Guidance to let my team apply constant pressure and warp in to seek revenge kills. Combine Camilla's half DR piercing bonus with Triangle Attack, and you get a recipe for one of the most cancerous things in the game. To add on to that, Legendary Crom serves as a secondary nuke. His weapon grants him massive stat bonuses directly related to the amount of buffs he currently has. Armored effectiveness alongside all of the support he's getting lets Crom shred through any far save. And of course, he also provides his own form of support to the team through To Change Fate, allowing him to act again after moving somebody, and Cancel Control to stop highly mobile threats. To say the least, Legendary Crom is a Swiss Army knife of a unit. Finally, the unit you've all been waiting for, Duo Seiðr. Where do we even begin? Let's start with her weapon. Seiðr grants 6 attack and resistance and a follow-up denial effect to herself and her allies, which pairs nicely with Crom, Additionally, she gets Canto 1 starting on turn 2, and plus 5 to up to plus 13 to all stats, depending on the turn number. On turn 4 onwards, if she has more than 5 resistance than her opponent, she gets a Brave attack. Not the craziest effect though, since we are running Bridal Catria, but overall, Goddess Tamari's gimmick is that it gets stronger the longer the game carries on, which is perfect for a slow-paced map like Towering Walls. Except that's not all there is to Seiðr. Seiðr's personal skill, Future Sighted, is by far the most toxic skill I have ever witnessed in this game. When Seiðr satisfies the resistance check, which is almost always, she will immediately end the turn of the closest enemy or enemies in cardinal directions. I can't begin to express how insane this effect is. With strategic movement, smart placement, and good use of action economy, Seiðr can completely shift the tempo of the match in your favor. Turning a 5v5 into a 5v4 or potentially a 5v3 can immediately win you the game. If your enemy can't move, they can't fight. And if you can efficiently utilize your actions, read your opponent's movements, and predict where they're going to go, you will have complete control of the board. It's not easy to realize Seiðr's full potential in the match, but when you do, she is by far the most powerful unit in the game. And if that wasn't enough, Future Sighted also gives Seiðr more stats, a guaranteed follow-up, and 30% damage reduction. What more does she need? Oh wait, I know. How about an equally toxic duo skill? It can be pretty confusing to understand what's going on here, but basically the Times Gate status effect is like if everyone on your team had Wings of Mercy. It's not completely the same, in fact it's probably better than Wings of Mercy. But Times Gate adds an additional layer of warping shenanigans that let our units combo the enemy team by sending teammates flying in to take down faraway threats. Activate this duo skill to unleash a deadly chain attack. The timing of when you press it is critical. That was a lot. As for the rest of Seiðr's kit, Swap is the best assist skill for her, so she can make small micro movements to get in the same row or column as an enemy, and freeze them with Future Sighted. Fury 4 and Still Water help alleviate the resistance check, and Pass is a nice tech option to punish Gatekeeper, and also to, well, literally pass through enemies to get into better positions. It's kinda crazy how this aspect of Pass is sometimes overlooked despite being its intended function. And thus begins our climb. It's Legendary Chrom versus Legendary Chrom. As for the rest of my opponent's team, they have a lot of mobility options. Summer Ivy provides soaring guidance to the team and can warp herself as she's supported with Plumeria. Speaking of, Plumeria can give charge to one of her allies, and has Wings of Mercy to, I presume, not actually dance, but instead snipe somebody on my team. Brave Robin also adds his own layer of warping, essentially giving himself Times Gate at all times through Rally Spectrum. And then, Gatekeeper. The biggest hurdle for my team, as he prevents my own units from warping. Luckily, we've brought a counter in Seiðr's Pass B skill, but it's going to take some effort to set everything up. It's going to be a hard first match, but if we can win, that's a huge confidence boost for us.
In Lady Freya's name.
Here I begin scouting out what my opponent is trying to do and see what their mobility options are. But I'm not really sure, so I stall out with Tiki's Harmonic skill to get my opponent to use up another action. Ivy and Plumeria are in the perfect positions to get frozen at the same time by Seiðr. However, that's not going to be possible, as we're unable to get Camilla to set up Soaring Guidance for her. That's due to Gatekeeper blocking Camilla from warping right above Tiki. While I would love to make that aggressive play, we have to hold off, as we literally can't do it.
Your plan?
Instead, I move Chrom up to get him closer to the zone and closer to the action so that he can revenge kill things without relying on warping. Now, it's our move. The safest play here is to just end my turn. None of my units are in danger and we can wait for an opportunity later down the line. But instead, I choose this moment to make a very aggressive play. I move Seiðr above Tiki, and the plan here is that if the enemy Chrom goes in and kills my far save, he will get frozen by Seiðr. And Chrom is arguably the most important unit to freeze here, as he can refresh himself.
Please, don't leave me.
Tiki gets taken out, but that's all according to plan, because now Seiðr freezes Chrom in place, essentially killing him as oh no, Seiðr can't kill Chrom.
Let us bless them.
Well, that definitely puts a wrench in our plan.
You have my all.
We have to figure out some way of taking out the enemy Chrom. I was not expecting Seiðr to miss that kill, which is more evidence as to why merges can absolutely matter in summonerduels. But enough harping on that. I have Chrom reposition Seiðr out of the way, because not only is she in danger of getting attacked by Ivy, but she's also in the way.
Avert your eyes. Let us bless them.
All right.
Time for Chrom to take out himself. While I would like to get this kill with Camilla, she can't warp in thanks to
You have my
Gatekeeper.
all.
It's not the most ideal situation because Chrom is just gonna die to Ivy, but we have no choice.
Your plan?
Cool off.
I'm sorry.
On our way.
Moving forward, we need to be careful how we advance our units. Ivy allows Robin and Gatekeeper to jump past the central blocks. At the same time, we do want to advance Camilla forward because she's the only one capable of taking out Ivy. The combination of Swap and Kanto comes in handy here, letting us perform small yet ever so essential movements to get closer while not being in threat range.
Don't worry, dear.
Camilla's pre-combat damage is basically doing all the work here. But once we take out Ivy, notice how that creates an open spot right across the wall. A perfect location for Seiðr to warp in and freeze Plumeria and Gatekeeper. This exemplifies how important having soaring guidance is for this team.
Exactly. Yeah.
The enemy Robin ends their turn without moving, which is very bold of them. Once again, Seiðr misses the kill, but this time it's because she's not triggering her weapon's Brave attack. With her Duo skill, however, she can grant herself Time's Gate, which fully activates Goddess Tamari. Once Seiðr goes in, you're about to witness what makes this unit so unbearably toxic.
A new beginning. Here's your gift.
Wait for it, wait for it. Oh, you hate to see it. Now that my opponent can't literally move, it's time we do some cleanup and finish the match.
Let us bless them. Don't worry, dear.
Wait for me.
Exactly. I'll take care of this. I see. Safe!
During this downtime where we set up our units, I like to give a few tips I have and personally follow for summoner duels. One of them is to, well, actually read weapon descriptions. Now, I know that's not the most exciting thing, but the main thing you actually have to look out for is the weapon conditional. A majority of the time, weapons will only work if the unit is above 25% HP, which is something you need to look out for. And it's also why AoE specials are so good in summoner duels. Being able to bring several units to below 25% HP can completely halt their strategy. One prime example is Legendary Robin, whose grand strategy gimmick is entirely turned off when he's at low health. Turning our attention back to the match, the main unit we have to look out for is Duo Marth. Camilla has a Hardy Bearing Seal, so I'm relying on her to take him out. I go ahead and use Tiki's Harmonic skill to stall, and wait for my opponent to try to get more units into the zone, and once they get too far deep, that's when we strike.
Alright.
After some deliberation, my opponent decides to move Valentia up to set up Heart of Crimea warping, which is exactly what we want, because now Camilla can take out Marth for free.
Stand together, always. Take a break. Please, don't leave me.
Unfortunately, Tiki was just barely unable to get that kill on Yunaka, but it's okay because now she's below 25% HP and none of her weapon effects are active, severely weakening her. So we can turn our attention instead to killing Valentia, the bigger threat on the board.
May I?
Your plan.
Exactly. May I? Time for bed.
With Valentia taken care of, Chrom and Robin are left stranded with no way of getting past the central walls, while our units can still warp all over the place. Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. An exact lethal. Well, it's okay. Seiðr dying there kind of stings, but mainly because we can't, well, finesse my opponent anymore with Future Sighted. So, I guess we'll just have to play like a not lunatic. The reason why I haven't gone ahead and just killed Yunaka is because I want to strip away all of my opponent's actions so that when I go in and kill stuff, I don't have to do any trading. Here I can just kill Yunaka for free because the flame terrains prevent Chrom from reaching me anyways, but I decide to use the Duo skill to just stall and play patiently. It's not really necessary, but I just decide to regardless. This match is pretty much over. Now, I know what you might be thinking, Patrick, just use Katria to take out Yunaka, it's such an obvious move, please get this over with and put your opponent out of their misery. And if there's anything to know about me, it's that I like to play summonerduels very patiently, play clean and nice, and scope out all my options. Even if the best move is more obvious than my opponent's lack of skill. I'm joking. Oh gosh, that was super snarky, even for me.
Wait for me. You're the best.
You have my all. The future has changed.
You know, something I've never gotten to do is have an SDR run where I don't face someone that instantly surrenders to me. Well, I guess that's just the nature of the mode. Hey, less editing for me. One of the most useful pieces of advice I can give for summonerduels is to use a variety of movement assists. I kinda sound like a broken record saying this cause I always give this advice whenever someone asks me how to improve their gameplay. Using assists like swap or drawback, and not just pigeonholing yourself into only reposition, can greatly improve your openings. Now, this is not a hard rule you must always follow when creating an opening, as that kinda depends on the map, but this tip is what helped me get so much better at summonerduels.
To be by his side.
Nagi takes a very aggressive position, and to me that says a few things that are running through my head. First of all, why did Nagi move so far up? Well, my opponent may be trying to set up an attack with Gulveg as she can't warp past the blocks. Her only approach option is to go underneath. However, the big flaw with Nagi's placement is that I can just break the block next to Tiki and have one of my units kill Nagi for free. I have a couple of ways to go about this. Seiðr most definitely cannot kill Nagi, so it's up to her to break the block for Camilla or Chrom to go in. I take some time to think about this, and I ultimately choose to have Seiðr break the block from below. She won't be able to freeze anybody, but had I placed her above to try and freeze Katria, I would have been making the same mistake as my opponent. They can just break the block next to Katria and send in Chrom or Yuri to kill my far save. Breaking from below is my best move. We each have one action left, and I'm in no danger of getting attacked, as long as I don't break the block next to Katria, that is. It's important to note that the perimeter blocks are also all gone now, making the zone super open. Next turn will be a perfect opportunity to use Seiðr's duo skill to begin our assault.
Let us bless them. On our way! How's the air look? Bright!
Now, our entire team has Time's Gate. The way I like to use this duo skill is to set up my primary nuke, in this case Legendary Chrom, to kill the enemy's far save. It's super important that Chrom himself is in range of our own far save, so he doesn't get sniped. That way, my opponent will be forced to attack into Tiki instead of Chrom. Once Tiki dies, or maybe even survives, the game plan is for the rest of my team to warp to a space adjacent to Chrom, killing anything nearby. Once one ally comes in, another unit can follow suit and kill something else right after. It doesn't matter if my opponent can kill the initial attacker or not, because there will be a second person right next to them who is keeping the floodgates open with Time's Gate. It will be a war of concentrating, but due to Time's Gate, my side can constantly send in more units to kill my foe's team. This duo skill is actually so toxic, almost akin to the early duo dagger shenanigans we had to deal with, except somehow worse. One main issue, however, is actually setting up our first nuke to get that initial warp train going. This is what I try to accomplish with Katria providing soaring guidance to Chrom and Tiki moving forward using drawback to protect him. My opponent doesn't want to move Chrom away, which means they're either severely underestimating Chrom's damage output or severely overestimating Nagi's bulk, at least without Hardy Fighter. I'm content if Tiki dies here because she already used her action, so let's get that warp train started. Nice. The core mechanic of Fire Emblem Heroes is the summoning system. It is a gacha game, first and foremost. So for my next tip, I'm going to explain what I think determines a worthwhile summonerduels unit you should spend orbs on, versus a unit that, well, which would be nice to have, isn't exactly a must-pull. From my experience, any unit that can manipulate movement in some capacity is a very good summonerduels unit. Because of how complex weapons have become in recent time, this criteria is unfortunately not that easy to pinpoint. For instance, would I consider a unit like Duo Seiðr to be someone that, quote, manipulates movement? Some would argue yes because of the duo skill, but others may not because that is not her primary gimmick. Or you could even make the argument that Future Sighted, that freezes enemies in place, is also a type of movement manipulation. So while it's not easy, this kind of analysis and debate is very important to consider when budgeting your orbs to summon for units that can help you build strong teams for summonerduels. Turning our attention back to the match at hand, we're not facing a very particularly strong opponent, but that's just how it works in this game mode. Nothing is stopping a gold player from just being queued up with a literal rank 1 player. It's kind of absurd. But at the same time, take one look at my opponent's team, and it's pretty clear as to why they're ranked so low. And I don't mean that in a mean way, it's just that, I mean, look at this, Dimitri doesn't even have a proper assist skill. Not to mention, the unit synergy is just not there for my opponent's team. Clearly, their strategy rests on me or whoever they face to not be able to break through duo Byleth, and what is most definitely a near-safe Dimitri. While that may work in favor battles on occasion when your opponent is doing basically the same thing with a similar composition, it just won't work in SDR. This game mode is where top players are going to bring their best team possible. People are going to have answers for every matchup they can conceive, and I can guarantee a team like this is not more difficult to face than the other teams that people try to prepare for.
Let us bless them.
Now, despite all I said about my opponent's team, I'm playing overly aggressive here, but because of their low threat range, I can just get away with it. Seiðr swaps of Tiki so that Seiðr can freeze Byleth in place, and we can advance forward a bit. While I would like to freeze Plumeria, Seiðr unfortunately does not have enough resistance to do that. Chrom is the only one capable of taking out Duo Byleth. Because Tiki was not within 2 spaces of Bridal Catria, she does not have triangle attack ready, so Camilla is unable to get the kill on him. But it's not like Chrom wasn't already the best man for the job anyways.
You have my all.
Now that Byleth is gone, the rest of my team can start going in and picking off the rest of my opponent's units one by one.
Let us bless them.
How fitting that Seiðr will be, well, fighting herself. At this point, my opponent really should just surrender. I admire their tenacity, but it's just kind of hopeless from here.
In Lady Freya's name. Where shall we go?
Well, Tiki, to answer your question, draw back Seiðr. But for some reason, I decided to use the harmonic skill here. I presume it's because I was scared of Chrom dying to Dimitri, so I gave him some bonuses as well as the sass effect that neutralizes Dimitri's own stat bonuses. Turns out, that was not a great play because Seiðr once again suffers an exact lethal. If I had a nickel for every time that happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot and it can't buy me FEH Pass, so who cares?
Wait for me.
I take a lot of time for my next move because I'm trying to figure out who the biggest threat is. I ultimately decide to target Winter Edelgard because she's the only one capable of taking out my captain. And if things get out of hand, she can potentially wipe out the rest of my team single-handedly. I'm not gonna lie, this match was a really sloppy performance by me, but that's just because Duo Seiðr lets me get away with a lot of stuff. Oh, not you too, Camilla. This Dimitri has gotten so lucky with these exact kills.
Your plan.
Wait for me.
All right.
Now it's time to take out Dimitri, and besides Camilla, I actually have no form of damage reduction piercing on this team, but weapon triangle advantage wins the day. So let's say you have the units to build several strong teams for summonerduels. Where do you even start? Well, my next piece of advice is to start building your team one unit at a time. First, choose a unit you'd like to feature as the captain, as well as someone who can make good use of the current captain skills. From there, I like to choose 1 or 2 extra units that can support the captain. Whether that support is in terms of mobility or bonuses, they should synergize well with your main carry. The remaining 2 slots are where you can get flexible. Typically, 1 slot will be reserved to a far save, and the last one can be some standalone unit that can fit on pretty much any team. This is usually a dancer or a unit like Duo Chrom, Duo Asker, or Duo Thor.
All right.
As for the team my opponent built, they also have Duo Seiðr, who is currently in the row that my Chrom desperately wants to be in. We still want Chrom to be in the spot right underneath Catria, but thankfully, we have a couple of ways to do this. Ultimately, both ways will result in the same contingency plan of having Tiki block Chrom from getting frozen. The first option would be to have Seiðr swap with Tiki. The problem with that is that Seiðr would no longer be in the same row as an enemy unit, which is not what we want. Ideally, Seiðr should freeze at least one unit on turn 2 so we can set up the warp train. If you're an astute viewer, you might have deduced the second option, which is to have Camilla swap with Tiki instead. That way, we can use Seiðr's action to freeze the enemy Kvasir.
May I?
And just like that, Kvasir's action is instantly over, turning the match into a 5 versus 4. It also doesn't help that Kvasir is in a very awkward position for my opponent.
Take my hand.
This turn, my game plan is to use Seiðr's Duo skill to begin my assault on the enemy team.
You have my all.
First, however, Tiki has to break the block.
I'll never let go.
Here, I could very easily break the block next to Camilla and send one of my units to attack into Kvasir and kill their Farsev Asker. However, that move is super telegraphed, as we're literally breaking my opponent's one line of defense right in front of their face. That gives them a chance to react and reposition Kvasir out of the way, resulting in futile and wasted actions on my side. Instead, we want to make full use of Time's Gate. So our approach will be from the bottom. Take out Asker and Gatekeeper and have Camilla and Katria finish the job. At least, that's what I hope will happen.
Don't worry, dear.
I was not expecting Chrom to reposition Asker there. It forces Camilla to use her action to swap Tiki so she can body block for Seiðr. However, without NFU or damage reduction piercing, there's just no way Chrom is killing Tiki.
All right.
So this is kind of unnecessary aggression by my opponent.
Not my first choice.
I could very well kill their Asker or Seiðr right now, but I don't want to trade my own Seiðr in the process. Instead, we can have Katria break the remaining central block and have Camilla Soaring Guidance let Seiðr warp to a safe spot and kill Kvasir or Seiðr from there. We don't even have to worry about Gatekeeper because of Pass.
You can do it! Ready for your big moment.
Just as expected, Chrom is not able to kill Tiki, and because Katria broke the central block, Seiðr can warp in and kill something.
I see. Wishing you the best.
All right. There's my chance.
After witnessing the absolute massacre that just happened to their team, they surrender. Hey, I would too. One thing I don't like about Summoner Duels is that there's no consequence for intentionally drawing. What I mean by that is neither side loses anything if they simply end turn 5 times in a row, effectively making it so that the match never happened.
Your plan.
Now, if you're climbing the SDR ladder, one tip I hate to give, but it absolutely works, is to join a Discord server. If you encounter someone you know when matchmaking, simply ping them on Discord and ask for a draw. No one loses any lives, and everyone's happy. Except for people like me. I absolutely despise the concept of intentionally drawing in this mode. I think it ruins the competitive integrity of the game. Now, what you're witnessing right here may seem very hypocritical of me, but the fact of the matter is, I have no clue who my opponent is. In the settings, I made it so that all of my opponent's names default to Kieran, which is why every single person you've seen so far has had that name. I don't want to collude with anybody. However, this person whom I don't know and was perfectly content fighting against decided to immediately end their turn. It's honestly kind of a gamble. I could have easily won that match by putting all my units in the zone and acquiring zone points for free. But that's such a dick move, and I don't want to win that way. So, despite my principles of competitive integrity, I decided to comply with my opponent's draw request. I guess if you ever face me in Summoner Duels, the best way to initiate a draw against me is to end your turn. I won't respond to any Discord pings, but at the same time, please just play out your matches. It's more fair for everyone that way. Finally, a master tier opponent. I love facing strong foes because they provide the most interesting matches. They also have Duo Seiðr, so this matchup will come down to who can make better use of her capabilities. She is the most toxic unit in FEH after all, but what happens when both sides have her? Well, you're about to find out.
Take my hand. Wait for me. Welcome! Need help?
Harmonic Ana, my least favorite unit in the game. If the combination of Gambit and Miracle wasn't annoying enough, she can instantly charge her Miracle special with the use of a single duo button. What is this lazy unit design?
Your plan.
Seiðr swaps with Katria so she can freeze Chrom next turn. But this isn't our first rodeo. We know how to respond to this. So we'll have Tiki cover for Chrom as her action is the least valuable. However, we don't want to get too hasty as a premature, highly committal move cannot be undone. So my opponent could still react to whatever I do. In the meantime, we stall with Tiki's harmonic skill. Because we haven't swapped Tiki just yet, my opponent is lulled into a false sense of security by putting Ana above Seiðr. Luckily for us, we get the last move. So, next turn we can freeze Ana in place, while my opponent will be freezing my Tiki. A very worthwhile exchange for me.
Next house?
Over there.
Our first move for turn 2 is absolutely critical. Because the enemy side also has Seiðr, we want to be aggressive sooner rather than later. The longer we draw this out, the more potential for mistakes there will be. I decide that my best move is to break the central block with Katria to open up space and let me attack into Ana.
To be by his side.
Funnily enough, my opponent also uses up a large chunk of their time to decide the best move is to break the central wall of Katria. Let's see if it works out for them.
You have my all.
With not much time on the clock, I have an important decision to make. Who gets the kill on Byleth? In the end, I deemed Camilla to be the best candidate because she can set up Soaring Guidance, the Divine Flame terrain, and does not provide any action economy to the team. So her action is actually the least valuable among Chrom and Seiðr.
for bed.
And so begins the War of Trading.
You can do it! Please, don't leave me. I see.
Your plan.
One play I could do here is to have Seiðr kill Chrom, get rid of their Canto control unit, and have Seiðr Canto to safety. That way I can preserve Chrom's action. But instead, I choose to get a captain on captain kill just for the extra 2 points.
I'm sorry.
To finish off a very eventful turn, Seiðr gets the kill on Chrom.
On our way! Wishing you the best!
After an insanely bloody turn 2, we are now officially ahead by 3 points and 1 extra unit. It's gonna take a miracle for my opponent to sneak a win out of this one.
Let us bless them. I see. Not my first choice. Let us bless them.
In a last-ditch effort, my opponent uses Seiðr's Duo skill to see if they can edge out a little bit more movement. Unfortunately for them, we can do the exact same.
I see. On our way. This year is our year.
I mark Seiðr here just so I can always know at all times what her threat range is. I don't need to play aggressive here. I can make good use of the central walls to prevent myself from making a mistake. Now that the enemy side has no more actions left, we can use Soaring Guidance to warp Camilla over the walls and get the job done.
Exactly.
And if things couldn't get any more degenerate, Seiðr does one final freeze on Katria to make sure my opponent doesn't even get the chance to attack Camilla.
I'll take care of this.
Have you ever had trouble understanding the attack range of units such as Hel and Harken who warp based on their foes' positions? Well, here's a quick tip that will help against them. By pressing down on Hel or Harken, you can highlight their attack range. Not only that, if you hover your unit around, you can actually see Harkin's attack range increase in real time. That will indicate to you where he can warp. You can also turn off the danger area to make his attack range more pronounced. Now, you'll never get spooked by Hell or Harkin ever again. Well, at least in theory.
All right.
Where shall we go?
The enemy Harkin has advanced to the front lines and is getting ready to warp in. Take a look at his build though. After one combat, the recoil from distant pressure and fury will bring Harkin down to vantage range. This means that Hardy Bearing, or Preserving Camilla, is my win condition. I have to be careful and make sure Harkin does not somehow take out Camilla, or else we automatically lose. On the flip side, the enemy Harkin has to be cautious as well. If they just warp in and kill one of my units, let's say Tiki, Camilla just counterattacks. For both sides, positioning is critical, and whoever can do that better will come out victorious.
I see.
You have my all. All right.
Now, I've said a lot about my opponent's captain, Harkin, but we also have to be very cautious of rearmed Lucina. With Future Sight, she can grant treachery to one of her allies and inflict sabotage on my units, greatly increasing the damage they take from Harkin and everyone else. Not only that, but Future Sight also lets Lucina swap Harkin around multiple times, which can make their movement very unpredictable. I try to freeze Lucina in place with Seiðr, but my opponent responds very smartly by getting her out of the way with Harkin. Right now, Catra is in danger of getting eliminated by Harkin, so we need to get her to safety.
Wait for me. Not my first choice.
A big weakness about my opponent's team is their lack of duo skills. While they may have rearmed Lucina, I have 3 duo buttons I can press at any time to stall out actions. So we're gonna use that to our advantage, try to eke out the last move, and then launch a surprise attack.
Where shall we go? Let us bless them. How's the air look? Bright. On our way. Don't worry, dear.
We are in a very precarious spot. Thanks to Lucina's Future Sight, Harkin has inched closer towards us, and now there's no escape for Catria. Brave Edelgard is also too bulky for us to take down, so what can we do? Well, my friends, I've still got an ace up my sleeve. We could try a defensive maneuver and save Catria, but that would involve our units going way out of position, which is just a recipe for disaster. In times like these where you're cornered, sometimes the best play is to just fight your way out. Seiðr breaks the perimeter block and cantos into position. Thanks to Time's Gate, Chrom and Camilla can warp to Seiðr and take out Sanaki. I've made an offer to my opponent. They can take out my Catra with Harkin, but in exchange, I will kill their Sanaki. Edelgard tries to cover for her, but now we have triangle attack active.
You have my all. I'll defeat you!
Bad move, my friend. Good game. Oh joy, this should be fun. How fitting that our final battle to reach rank 1 is against a rank 1 player in the flesh. I won't provide much commentary for this match, but sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I'll never let go.
Wait for me.
Am I pretty? Indeed you are.
You have my all. You have my all.
Beautiful, big cheeky.
I'm so pleased. Take a break. Please, don't leave me.
Let us bless them. This year is our year.
Storm's rolling in.
I'm sorry.
I see. Wait for me.
You know what? We so take those. And just like that, we've achieved rank 1 SDR.